Welcome to Hashmarks and Working Tools, where football meets the craft and hot takes come properly squared. Hosts Mike McDermott and Joel Cade torch NFL game film, then grab the Masonic working tools to talk strategy, character, and the craft itself.
Welcome to another episode of Hashmarks and Working Tools podcast, where the gridiron meets the lodge room and everyday life in between. I am your host, Mike McDermott, along with my co-host, Joel Cade, inviting you to settle in, square your thoughts, and join us for the work.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's get to work.
So, hey, I wanted to start out here. Browns fans, because I know we're talking football and Freemasonry here, Browns fans are kind of all on pins and needles right now because Joel Bitonio is potentially retiring. But more than that, it's not just the potential retiring, it's the fact that he has a date on his contract that represents a payout. I'm not sure exactly what's going on here, but he would represent a $23.5 million dead cap hit if he retires or he's cut or what happens with Joel Bitonio. So that's what's happening here. Now, as Browns fans know, we're already going to have a $79 million cap hit with Deshaun Watson next year. So the question is, are we going to post June 1st cut Watson? If you have Bitonio and Watson both with dead cap money on the cap, you're talking about a cap that's $240 million with almost $100 million in dead cap space.
Dead cap.
So Browns fans are kind of watching this pretty closely. I personally, Joel Bitonio is my favorite player. I mean, my name is Joel. I played left guard in college. The Browns have a player named Joel who plays left guard. So I've really kind of attached myself to Joel Bitonio. But yeah, this is the mess the Browns have gotten themselves into with the cap situation. If you keep kicking salary down the road by paying things out in a bonus and then prorating the bonus over 5 years, eventually there comes a point where if somebody retires or you cut them, that bonus becomes an immediate cap hit. And if we get a Watson cap hit and a Bitonio cap hit for dead money, we got half our salary wrapped up in two players that don't play.
That is crazy. That is so crazy.
We think we're smarter than everybody over in Cleveland.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, that's out there. Now, it was reported that Joel Bitonio had retired, thereby hitting the 23.9 or something cap hit. But it turns out what the Browns and Bitonio did was extend the date 15 days for his potential either bonus or whatever it is, 15 days. So now you have 2 weeks to contemplate if he wants to retire or play or whatever. Cap world. People always claim in the NFL that the cap means nothing, that you can manipulate the cap, and in some respects you can, but there's always the price to be paid at some point. And with Bitonio, that price is coming.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're going to have to restructure all the other contracts to work around that dead cap hit.
But that's what the Browns have been doing. They've done the New Orleans Saints route, where you bring somebody in, you pay them $2 million on the first year of their deal to fit them under the cap, and then you give them a cap hit for the rest of it, $15 million, whatever. And then the next year comes along and you say, well, we can't have $15 million. We need cap space. So we're going to bonus this $15 million out and spread that over the next 5 years. And then the next year you've got the $15 million on the original contract plus the bonus money that you just prorated. So that comes in and you say, well, I can't afford that. So then you're paying somebody $20 million because of the cap hit, because of the salary and the prorated bonus. Then you bonus that out, right? That's how you end up with these massive cap hits. And I mean, I get it that going year in and year out, you can bonus people out. And by the way, Bengals fans have no idea what I'm talking about because their owners are too cheap to bonus somebody out.
They don't even get close to their cap.
No, they just tell people, just be happy with what you have, right? They spend the 80% because you have to. And then that's all they do. But anyway, my rip on Bengals fans aside, the Browns owners will at least pay money to try to keep you under the cap. But the problem when you do that is you're just kicking the can down the road. And eventually that can has to be picked up and dealt with. And Watson's going to be dealt with because they've been kicking him down the road. Bitonio's going to be dealt with because they've been kicking him down the road. They're kicking Myles Garrett down the road. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't restructure Myles Garrett this year. and they just paid him last year. But this is how they operate. Like, this is how you make cap space.
Myles Garrett's going to get a pay cut after last year's performance.
No. See, what happens is, let's say like he's slated to make $20 million. That's $20 million against the cap. So what you would do is you walk up to Myles Garrett and you say, "Look, we'll pay you $15 million in a bonus right now, up front, right?" And then that reduces his yearly salary to $5 million. So he's only a $5 million cap hit. But that $15 million that you paid out in a bonus gets prorated over the next 5 years, starting the next year. So then the next year, the Browns would be on a hit for the $20 million that they owe him, right? Plus the 15 divided over 5, which would be 3. So now they're at a cap hit of $23 million. Now let's say the next that's how that works. So the cap hit is only $5 million, right? In our theoretical scenario.
Correct.
But the next year his cap hit becomes $23 million. So you've just kicked the money down the road. Then if you do that multiple times, you're just, compounding to the point where someone like Deshaun Watson, who only had a $40 million guaranteed contract, but his cap hit now is $80 million because you've kicked it down the road long enough to try to sign other players because, quite frankly, he's not worked out.
Right.
So the Browns have got like a slew of these contracts going. A whole bunch of them. I mean, like the Saints did this for a while, but then the NFL had to change the rule so that you could actually void, right? You could put void years onto the end. So a void year is basically, let's say Myles Garrett has 3 years left on this contract, but you don't want to pay him $20 million because, you don't want to handle that. So what you do is you take that bonus, you pay him the $15 million bonus, like we said, you spread that out over 5 years, but his contract's only 3 years. But you can spread the bonus over 5, giving him, 3 additional what are called void years, which are years that you're, taking the hit on the salary cap for the bonus that you paid him in year 1.
Right.
That he doesn't even actually have a contract for. So you're paying dead money on players that aren't on your team. Like that's the NFL changed the rule to allow the Saints to do that so they could field a team 1 year.
Right.
And now the Browns are like living in that world. It's insane. It's insane. So yeah, the Joel Bitonio saga, you think, oh, this guy's retiring, no big deal. But it's a $23 million cap hit, and you can't defer it, you can't bonus it out. It's just out there.
It's got to get dealt with this year, though, right? It has to get dealt with this year.
Does.
Okay. So I know you're not, inside Myles Garrett's head, but like, what's he thinking? Like, with all of this going on?
Here's what I think Myles Garrett is thinking. So Myles Garrett apparently, and I didn't know this, has a bonus in his contract that if he breaks the NFL sack record, he gets a $45 million bonus. Okay. Now, because that bonus is, this is what the NFL, like we're talking a lot of NFL contract stuff today. The way NFL determines its cap is if you put a bonus in a contract, somebody from the NFL will say that is most likely a performance bonus that someone will make. Therefore, we are going to put that as a part of your cap hit. Okay.
The bonus
itself would be a part of the cap hit. Now, in Myles Garrett's case, now listen to this. This is creative. The Browns said, every time you break the NFL sack record, we will pay you a $45 million bonus. Okay? But the NFL, in its wisdom, says that's not a incentive that Myles Garrett is most likely to make. Okay? So that $45 million bonus he got did not count 1 red cent against the Browns cap.
No.
Because it is like a non-viable bonus. And every year he does it, he gets that bonus. So he's already come out and said, I'm going to break the sack record next year.
Come on.
Because he wants a $45 million bonus. That doesn't count against the cap hit because the NFL has deemed it as a bonus that is unlikely to be made. It's like somebody else had one, like a quarterback had one at one point. It's outrageous bonus if they won the MVP and the Super Bowl MVP in the same year. It's like a $45-50 million cap hit. But the NFL said, oh, you'll never do that. Then they went out and did it. And then every team realized, we can do this. It just has to be like completely outrageous. So Myles Garrett might be making, I don't know what he makes, like $20 million a year, but this year he made $65 million a year, and 45 didn't even count against the cap.
That's insane.
Capology, man. Capology.
And it's just because it's they deem it impossible to happen,
Correct.
or
It's unlikely to be achieved, so they don't put it on the cap. But let's say this. Let's say Aaron Rodgers comes back to the Steelers, right? And then you're saying, okay, we'll give you a bonus of $2 million if you play 14 games. You start 14 games, we'll pay you $2 million, right? Now the NFL will say, okay, he's most likely going to play 14 games.
mm-hmm.
So they'll say that $2 million bonus has to go against your cap hit because it's most likely he's going to achieve it. Therefore, you're most likely doing it. But once the NFL realized they could put out these outrageous things and like over incentivize their players to like do outrageous things, these things are becoming more common. Like you lead the league. Like Lamar Jackson had one where if he led the league in or popular vote for the Pro Bowl, which he didn't get this year because Browns fans voted for Shedeur Sanders, right? But he has a clause in his contract that if he wins that voting, he'll get a certain amount of money. And the NFL deemed that's probably not going to happen. So that doesn't count against the Ravens cap.
That's crazy.
Oh, man, there's all kinds of crap that goes on with caps. But anyway, that's what's going on with the Browns and Joel Bitonio. But I want to emphasize, let's go to the Freemasonry part of here, right? I want to talk about the square today because the square, the way I understand the square is about reason, about our ability to use our intellectual reason to think through problems and to deal with things. And I think the NFL cap is a perfect example of the use of reason of, okay, if this is the case, how do we actually do that? So, the square obviously is the 90-degree angle that you correctly position on a stone. Let's talk about, Freemasonry, right? You can square it up to 90 degrees and it is correct the way it's supposed to be. And the working tool of the square symbolizes for us as free and accepted Masons the use of proper reason and rationality.
Mm-hmm.
And we address in other ways how do you attain a proper sense of reason and rationality. So I'm not going to get into that. But this is an example of, okay, if Myles Garrett retires, how do we rationally take that cap hit? And I really think that's what the Browns are trying to do. I think Bitonio wants to retire, but the Browns want to say, how can we avoid a $23 million cap hit? And I think their Harvard and Yale minds are in Cleveland right now trying to figure out how do we deal with the cap hit of this.
Right.
So what's going on in Steeler land?
Well, Steelers. Well, it's different. I got to tell you, the drama that's going on right now in the postseason is just insane. I'm just not used to it. I'm just not used to having such like weird things in the news. Let's get everybody up to speed because I know everyone doesn't follow, Steelers, radio and podcasts and stuff like that. Starting it off, there is apparently an internet-based rumor that Mike Tomlin stepped down from the Steelers this year, partly because he impregnated a young assistant. Well, it depends on what article you read.
Okay.
One of them says she was an NFL assistant for the team. Another article said that she was a bartender. And then another one said that she was a nursing student.
So we really have no idea who this person is.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Correct.
Keep going. So he apparently got this girl pregnant and then resigned in shame? Is that what it is?
Right. Well, they're saying Rooney made him do it. Right.
Okay, so Rooney forced him out because of the bad situation going on here.
Ethics, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, I mean, probably it's more publicity based than it is ethics based with the NFL. Let's be honest. Let's be honest with what we're talking about here.
Well, we're talking about Rooney. It's ethics.
Okay.
So that's the rumor, and there's people that are trying to put together who is this, getting pictures, it could be a fan picture, standing with Tomlin, that kind of stuff,
That stuff's over the line, but go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. And then there's another article that's related to it saying that he made a $3.5 million payment to a woman in Florida. And so, again, unsubstantiated, no real news outlet is carrying it, but it's all over X, it's all over Reddit, that kind of stuff. So it's out there if you want to read about it.
So let me get to the point here. How do you, as a Steelers fan, because I'll be honest, I'm a Browns fan, we deal with this part and parcel 24/7. But how do you, as a Steelers fan who've never had to deal with this, I wouldn't say never, rarely has to deal with this, because there was some Ben Roethlisberger stuff back in the day, but you rarely have to deal with this. How are you feeling about this?
I don't know, man. It's just we've never, conspiracy theories are not part of the Steelers DNA. I mean, as a fan, we just people are usually generally nice to each other. Mm-hmm. Coaches are nice to players. Players are nice to coaches. Most of the players, stay, kind of, on the square.
Right.
Basically.
Properly aligned,
exactly. Yeah, they don't act, like thugs or, go out to the, the nightclubs and shoot up the place,
See, I think Browns fans would say that maybe this is the Steeler identity on the field, acting like thugs, but just some friendly banter there. Not really. I mean, like there are some questionable hits at times, but you wonder, like, why do people act like? Anyway, you gotta get off that.
Well, that's a famous quote, from Troy Polamalu, right? Is like, we treat everyone with respect everywhere except the field.
I think that would, I would agree that respect is not a thing on the field.
Yeah, anyway, it's not.
I would agree with that. I'm going to offer you, just if you don't mind, a Browns fan's advice to a Steelers fan who's not used to dealing with this. So first of all, I want to kind of lay out some credentials of things that I've dealt with so that you have a sense of like some of the stuff we've dealt with. Josh Gordon. You remember Josh Gordon?
I do.
Okay, so my favorite tweet I ever read was from a guy named Field Yates on X about Josh Gordon. Now, Josh Gordon, great wide receiver, has self-admitted that every time he played football, he smoked marijuana and went on the field high. So he always played the game high. Mm-hmm. So he had this cycle. He would get suspended under the old policy, right? Go to rehab, get clean, come back, go play football, not be very good, decide he needs to get high. Then he gets high and goes plays football and he's tremendous. Then he gets suspended again, right? So he went through the cycle 4 or 5 times. Mm-hmm. Even hooked up with Johnny Manziel at one point, and like they were going to get clean together, if you believe that lie, and all this kind of stuff. So the Browns at one point, and I will say this for the Cleveland Browns, back in the 1980s, the Browns became the first NFL team to address drug and alcohol abuse as a problem among its players and created a system to support its players, which was the foundation for the system that the NFL originally adopted. So the Browns decided at some point they just had enough of Josh Gordon. Like, we've been in it suspended 6, 8, 10 times. What the heck? So they trade him to the New England Patriots, right? So he goes to the New England Patriots. First game out, 200 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns, some insane thing. And then Field Yates comes out and says, can you believe the Browns were stupid enough to trade this guy for a 4th-round pick? Right? Because that's how dumb the Browns are, right? So I just replied back, one of millions of people replied, like, just wait. 3 weeks later, guess what happens? Josh Gordon is suspended by the NFL.
Yep.
And then I replied back to Field Yates, see, this is why the Browns trade him. Can you believe the Browns got a 4th-round pick for this guy? I'm going to pick on you for a second here, Mike. I got a thing from you one time in my text messages with a picture of Kenny Pickett, right? Mm-hmm. Do you remember this one? Kenny Pickett is a Raider, threw for 14 yards, and the thing underneath on the meme, it said, the Browns almost started this guy.
Yeah.
Okay? I got this from a Steelers fan, right? Now, the thing about this is, and I get it, it's all good fun. The Browns almost started this guy. Ha, ha, ha. They're a bunch of idiots, right? The Browns had him in camp, evaluated him, knew he wasn't worth starting, and traded him and got a 4th-round pick for him, right? The Browns never started the guy. Never once. He was the guy, they gave up a 4th round, brought him into camp, got a 4th round for him. And by the way, they upgraded their pick. The pick they got in return from the Raiders is worth more than the pick that they gave the Eagles to acquire him.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there. They upgraded their 4th-round pick for him. But the only team that started Kenny Pickett was who? The Steelers, right? So here's a Steeler fan sending me a meme making fun of the Browns, saying that they almost started a guy that they started for like 2 seasons. So
we already knew he was bad.
least the Browns had figured it out. But so anyway, that's the kind of stuff we deal with. And then you got the Deshaun Watson stuff that went on that I don't think is well understood. By the way, Deshaun Watson settled, or at least the other two cases that they swore were going to go to court. Those aren't going to court anymore. He was never charged. He was, all this kind of stuff. Am I saying Deshaun Watson's a good guy? No, I'm not saying he's a good guy. I'm saying that sometimes things get out into the media and they get blown up to be something that they're not, right? And they get out to be, and with the Browns in particular, it seems to be, look how stupid the Browns are. Look at the stupid thing the Browns did. The Browns are morons. The Browns are dysfunctional. I mean, we had Paul last week. How can you say the Browns, you did this to show? I get it. The Browns are dysfunctional in a way, but it's also taken on a life of its own where things that happen in Cleveland get reported in a way that would never be reported, say, in Pittsburgh, right? Mm-hmm. It just kind of happens that way, and it's okay. So here's my advice for dealing with stupidity like this, because I've dealt with a lot of it. Use your square, okay? Just think through it rationally. And if somebody comes up to you and wants to be like, the Steelers are, just be like, look, do you know what happened? Do you know what actually happened versus what's being reported? In this case, it doesn't seem like we know what's really going on. Maybe we get a sense that Mike Tomlin likes to sleep around, okay. And it cost him his job, right? That's why he's not there. It's like this Jim Schwartz things with the Browns, right? Jim Schwartz doesn't get a job, throws a fit, storms out. Everybody's like, look at the Browns, are so dysfunctional. Well, I mean, maybe this is why Jim Schwartz hasn't had a head coaching job since the Detroit Lions, right?
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
If you can't keep your crap together, do you really want this guy coaching your team?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, I mean, there's always, you got to cut through the emotion of it because they're doing it to get an emotional response out of you. And it seems like the Browns are an easy place to do that because Browns fans are all over Twitter. They're very active. They're always voting. They're always doing things that are very active. Like we voted Shador Sanders into the Pro Bowl. Guy has no business being in the Pro Bowl, but we voted him into the Pro Bowl. Browns fans put Peyton Hillis on the cover of Madden football. No business being on the cover of Madden football. So Browns fans are very active. And so if you're down behind on your clicks or, you've got this thing out there, you just say something stupid about the Browns and they all go, oh my God. So you just have to, and then it's become this whole, if you feel bad about your team, at least you're not the Browns. And so any little thing that can be blown up into something big is, and the only way you can deal with that is just be calm and rational about what is actually happening here. And once you do that, you find out things aren't as dysfunctional as people really think they are. So I guess my thing would just be, don't let yourself get caught up in the emotion, which is literally what the square tells us, right? If things are going on about us, what are we supposed to do with it with the square? Judge it by the square. Does it fit the angle? Is it correct, right? Use your reason and think through the process and the problem,
right?
And use that as your determination of what's happening. So that's my advice as someone who's dealt with a lot of Browns drama. I mean, just think it through,
Well, we had another piece of Steelers news this week, and that was questioning the character and integrity of Ben Roethlisberger. So, story starts out. At the beginning of last week, Joey Porter Sr. got on a podcast. This is a guy that usually doesn't do a whole lot of podcasts, so he's new to the platform. Ben Roethlisberger has been doing a podcast since 2017, 2018, so he's been doing it a long time. Okay, so Joey Porter Sr. gets on one, and he starts talking crap.
Starts running his mouth, huh?
Yeah, he did.
Gets on a podcast and runs his mouth.
He did. Let me pull up.
This reminds me of when James Harrison, while you're pulling this up, this reminds me when James Harrison got on a podcast, started running his mouth, and said that, Mike Tomlin paid him to hurt players. And then if you go and look at his play, you think that's actually kind of plausible. Like the way he almost ripped off Johnny Manziel's head and the way he hits people after plays. And, I mean, even the Bengals suspended him, I think, at one time for being dirty. That actually sounds plausible. And then he comes out, oh, I was just joking. That was a joke. And then everybody forgot it.
Yeah.
If the Browns player did this would be I'm some guy gets fired in Florida, right? I can't. It's Flores who got fired and said, I'm not coaching Florida anymore
Yes.
because like the
Yes.
owners told me to quit." So then what happens, right? Hugh Jackson comes out. The owners paid me to quit. Goes on a media tour, and then somebody like figured out they're not paying you to like be bad. You're just bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, go
Yeah.
ahead, Joey Porter. You think you found it?
Okay. So Joey Porter Sr., he called Ben Roethlisberger not a good teammate, not a good person. And then he said he broke the brotherhood, which is huge, like in Steelers football, like the brotherhood is everything. And then he said, out of anybody, Ben should have never grabbed the microphone and talked Steeler business. Okay, so that last piece kind of rolls us back to Ben Roethlisberger, who also has a podcast, right? And so Ben was basically saying in his podcast about Mike Tomlin, maybe it's time to step down. Maybe it's time to hand the keys over to another coach that can bring in offense-focused type of plays and really re-engineer the dynamic for the Steelers for the next, 20 years. Mike Tomlin was the coach for the Steelers for 19 years. He had a great record, went to one Super Bowl, and Joey Porter Sr. was not having anybody talk anything about Coach Tomlin. So, with this said, Joey Porter Jr. was drafted by the Steelers, and then he was, he's had a couple great seasons. So, Joey Porter Sr. was really ticked off that Ben said anything about Tomlin, and that was basically not going to happen under his watch. The thing is, Joey Porter Jr. was really part of the Tomlin family. He went to, what was it, Pittsburgh? Yeah, what team was he on? He was on Allegheny, which was the same team that Tomlin's son was playing on. And Joey Porter Jr. was a ball boy for the Steelers back in 2014, 2015, 2016. And so, it was a really close relationship. And that's, I think, the reason why Joey Porter Sr. decided he wanted to cork off and really attack Ben Roethlisberger's character.
Right.
So and
I would ask you this: like when I started thinking, when I, as a Browns fan who sees drama, this is the first thing I ask. Yeah. What's Porter's motivation, which you've done? Yeah. What's Roethlisberger's motivation, which I think you've given us, right? Roethlisberger's doing a podcast about the Steelers, and he's giving an opinion about the Steelers. Right. I don't think he's trying to be personal. He's just trying to say this is the state of the Steelers. I haven't heard the podcast. Maybe he came out and said Mike Tomlin is this, a jerk, and this. I don't know. Maybe he did. But it sounds like he's only repeating what I've heard other Steelers fans say, which is the offense is bad, maybe his message is stale, and maybe it's time to move on into someone else. I mean, 19 years as a head coach is like $100, like 100 years, right? It's like 100 years. Like 1 year of a head coach is like 5 years in real life, right? It's insane. So it's like he's the head coach for 100 years. I mean, if you last 6, you've done a tremendous job as a head coach. If you last 10, you're one of the best coaches in that team's history, right? If you last 19, that's insane. Like that's a lot. So it makes sense. I mean, even Pete Carroll left Seattle, right? So, and it sounds like on the other side, Porter is saying maybe took this a little personally from what I'm hearing from you. Didn't let himself be guided by reason. Didn't call up Ben on privately and say what's the intent behind what you're saying, and felt the need to come out and defend his man publicly.
Yeah. Well, I think it's this whole podcast environment too, right? Is where people just, start riffing about other people and not really considering consequences with that other person. And I really don't think Joey Porter Sr. is into like clickbait and that kind of stuff. I really don't think that's what it is. But he took a lot of heat over the comments that he had. The rest of the team is like, hey, he got you to a Super Bowl. He took you to a Super Bowl. Like, why are you talking about that guy? You know,
You're saying this to Ben Roethlisberger or to Joey
no,
Porter?
to Joey Porter
So
Sr.
that Ben
Yeah,
Roethlisberger took you to a Super Bowl. Okay.
yeah,
I get it. Okay.
yeah. He was your man. He took.
I would say that podcasts probably aren't the place to air dirty laundry. Maybe not.
Yeah,
I see. And I don't. I mean, yeah, a guy's upset. He took it kind of personally, and he calmly said some stuff. Like that's how I would handle it. Like, I wouldn't get too worked up over it. I think Joey
yeah,
Porter is the kind of guy that gets worked up over stuff. Like I think any Bengals fan would tell you that Joey Porter cost them a playoff victory. Of course, in Steelers lore, it's probably Joey Porter went out there, made a Bengal player mad who hit him, and
yeah.
we got a field goal out of it and won a playoff game. Was that the last playoff game you guys won? In Cincinnati, where you got that like miraculous like 40-yard penalty and like kick a field goal against the Bengals. If that isn't the most Bengals moment ever, that's like out of Browns world right there. Like that's something the Browns would do. But
Yeah.
I think thinking through the consequences of your actions is literally like the Masonic thing here, right? Like,
Correct.
What am I doing? How am I doing it? Why am I doing it? And before you like run off the tilt and start saying stuff, understand your environment, understand what your emotions in the situation is. And I'm not saying your emotions are bad. I'm just saying don't let them run you. Let reason run you, not your emotional state at the time.
Well, I think Joey Porter also felt that he was oddly enough, that he was in a comfortable conversation, right? So he was on the Cam Hayward show.
Okay.
Being interviewed, right? So Cam is a current Steeler.
Yeah, like you have current players doing podcasts.
That's
tremendous. Like I would listen to something like that. If like Joel Batonio had a podcast, I'd probably listen to that.
Yeah. No, so this was on the Cam Hayward podcast, and he felt like he was in a welcoming, comfortable conversation.
Right. So
when asked afterwards, Cam Hayward's like, "Yeah, I don't know what he was talking about. So even, Cam was kind of couching his comments. He was like, I'm not going to go in and say anything bad about Joey Porter. I'm not going to say anything bad about Ben Roethlisberger. He's my man. And then Ben Roethlisberger was asked after this podcast aired, and he replied, everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yep.
And then he declined to escalate beyond that.
Yep. That's the way you handle that, right? You just PR wise, that's the way you handle it. You're just kind of like, yeah, everybody can have their opinion, but then he's going to go behind the scenes and probably talk to Joey Porter, like, what's going on, man? I'm just doing a podcast. I'm expressing an opinion.
Yeah.
If you got an issue with the opinion, come talk to me. Like,
right.
And I guess that would be the other thing I would say up front about living by the square, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is more on the level, but letting reason guide you. Right? Just go talk to the person you're having an issue with. Think the issue through first. Like, is this really something I should have an issue with? That's a lot of like sports drama. Is this really something I should be upset about? you know? And 9 out of 10 times, and I would say 10 out of 10 times, if it's sports related, the answer is no, I should not be upset about this. And if it's like someone in the lodge and I'm frustrated with somebody in the lodge, I'm just going to go talk to them and just say, hey, look, let's just have a conversation. And the last thing you ever want in a lodge is discord. You don't want people arguing with each other. And I think, I know I don't talk about a whole lot what we said in lodge the other day, but like, I think there's a sense of being open-mindedness and open to rethinking ideas that this was last week. I think we had on our podcast, we were talking about this, a general sense of openness to new ideas and different ways of doing things. And if you keep your mind open, a lot of these issues that you start having with other brothers tends to go away.
Right.
But when you have we're doing it my way because we've always done it, or I like to do it this way, therefore everybody should do it this way. And we kind of fall into that without thinking about it sometimes. Like if we sit back and we just rationally think about it, okay, I'm in my early 50s. The way I do things is going to be different from somebody in their early 30s is going to do it.
Right.
And that's okay. But let's have a conversation about it. Before I get all hurt and upset and frustrated, let's just have a conversation. What are you trying to do? This is what we've done. Maybe this can help you, and just be open to the differences, because ultimately they're the future of the lodge. If you want your lodge to go on, in 20 years, you're going to be 70 and they're going to be 50, and who's going to be the one running the lodge? Them.
Right. Exactly.
So just mentor them along.
Right. The thing is that I think Joey Porter didn't even, the reason why it cut so deep was really because Ben has had this podcast, like I said, for many years, and he addresses his demons during his podcast. He's been very open to the stuff that happened in his past and how he's tried to change and become better.
Right.
Right. And very upfront about everything that's happened in his past.
I mean, I would just kind of say for Ben Roethlisberger, he's from our area here, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's just
Yes.
up the road where he grew up, and I kind of feel like with him, he's got a sense of, I can relate because we're kind of all like
Mm-hmm.
growing up in that same ethos, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah. Yeah. And that you criticize somebody that harshly about who they are, and they've always been clear about who they are. And he said, I haven't always been a great man. No, I mean, I have really had to work at it. And, he now harkens back saying, hey, I have a better relationship with my wife. I have a better relationship with my children. I have a better relationship with God. And, he's, basically said, hey, I am an imperfect human and I recognize that and I've worked to make that better.
right.
And that's really all anybody can do.
And that's all you can ever ask of somebody. I mean, you can't ask them to be perfect. You just want them to recognize, hey, I can be better.
Correct.
And that takes a real rational assessment of all of your demons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of the things that you don't want to deal with and
Mm-hmm.
deal with them. And just like sometimes you have to relive that emotional trap that you had as a kid and think back now as an adult. I understand that I was upset as a kid when I went through that, but as an adult, I now know that I understand why I was upset. I understand what the adults in the world were doing in that situation. So it no longer traumatizes you. I'm not a therapist, but that sometimes that helps if you just get a journal out and just relive the emotions of the things you're upset about. Particularly, I get overwhelmed at times. Like I got this going on, this going on, this going on, this going on, this going on. And I just have to sit down and be like, I'm frustrated about this, frustrated about this, frustrated about this, and then just puking it onto a computer screen or a page. I like to handwrite, but just externalizes it all, and then you can be more calm and rational about each simple problem you have. Right? It gives you a mode to externalize it and deal with it out there in the world as opposed to inside where it's emotionally eating you alive.
Right. Well, when you start talking about like the brotherhood, the Steeler Brotherhood, it was pretty clear when I watched the Cam Hayward podcast that Joey Porter Sr. really had not paid any attention to Ben in the past 7-8 years. Probably never watched his podcast. Probably hasn't talked to the guy. So he hasn't recognized a change in his fellow football player, right? Teammate. Brother. And because of that, he said those things that really cut deep. And I'm not sure how that relationship is going to go from now on. Yeah.
I mean, I'm interested in hearing like this brotherhood among the Steelers. Like the Browns don't have this. We have so many people come in and out that this is part of like what Browns fans would like to see the Browns as a team develop an identity, a sense of belonging, a sense of playing for each other, a sense of this is who we are. Like there's so much turnover that's gone on, although we've had Stefanski for 6 years, and I think it was time for that to move on. I mean, when you think the quarterback you drafted in the 3rd round is a good quarterback, you got a problem.
Yeah.
But we don't have any of that kind of stuff. So I can see how if you have that culture that this becomes a ripple in those cultures. But as a Browns fan, we don't have that culture.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is we think about that all the time. We think about like how that brotherhood operates and, when a loss happens, that we don't put it on a particular player. We don't go in and hang a loss on a particular player that didn't catch the ball, right? Didn't throw the ball, right? Overthrew the pass. You don't see that. You don't see that criticism directly
I will
for
agree with you on
individual
that.
performance.
Steelers tend to rally around each other, even when I think, maybe they shouldn't at times. When there are things that go on that are clearly the fault of the Steeler player on the field and things happen, I think the Steelers will rally around that guy and say, he's just, we've got this reason, that reason, and they'll protect him and circle the wagons and do
Mm-hmm.
that. I think the Browns could do better doing that. And I definitely think this is obviously a lodge culture also we're talking about. We're
Yeah.
like, we're a brotherhood and we're going to take care of each other. I mean, I'm not saying we have to keep everything in house because I don't want that, like what are the Masons
Right.
doing over there? What are those
Right.
people doing up there? Kind of thing. But I think definitely there's a sense of like, if there's an issue, there's a sense we need to go rationally help correct that brother the best way we can out of love, right? You get
Mm-hmm.
the two lines, right?
Right.
The discipline and love, and you got to meet in that dot in the middle, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
the circle there. You got to meet that dot in the middle, halfway between love, halfway between discipline,
Mm-hmm.
to meet that brother in the middle there, and just say, look, maybe this isn't what you meant to do, but
Right.
we're here for you, and we're gonna take care of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really seen like when you attend a Steelers football game in Pittsburgh and we take a loss. We take a loss and then we walk out of the stadium. Everyone's disappointed in a loss, but we're still all family,
Right. And I
right?
will say, as a visitor to Pittsburgh, I know I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry. I
No.
would say, as a visitor to Pittsburgh, that was probably the most accommodating fan base that I've been around. My son and I went there. I think you were actually at the game we were at,
Yep.
and we expected to walk into like a Baltimore esque type setting. We're like, I mean, you've seen them; they have fights for no
Yeah.
reason after the game, right?
Absolutely.
And we had been there twice before to Baltimore, and it was nightmares. And we were expecting that, but when we got there, everybody was super nice. Like, "Oh yeah, here's your seat," and like we were standing there eating food at one of the round tables on the first level, and a
Mm-hmm.
couple Steelers fans just joined us, was talking to us. Hey, where are you from? What do you mean? Had an interest in us as people, and not just
Yeah.
like you're this Browns guy. Like it was more like, hey, we're all like people, and we're all real people. And I that's
Yes.
the only place that never gotten at Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati is more of a neutral kind of like, you're over there, I'm over here. You root for your team, I'll root for my team. In Baltimore, it's like very negative. It's we're Ravens fans and you're the scum of the earth because you showed up in a Browns jersey.
Right.
But you go to Pittsburgh and it's kind of like, hey, we're all people, we're all sports fans. Let's go root for our teams.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it starts as soon as you get into Pittsburgh too, right? So even the
Mm.
pregame stuff, the tailgate. I don't know if you guys experienced the full tailgate experience
I'll
before
tell
the
you what
game.
we did experience before the game. We got lost. So, and this was our first experience in Pittsburgh, and we got lost.
Uh-huh.
We parked over by a hotel, and we wanted to take the ferry over. And we
Okay.
took the ferry over to the stadium, right? And then we got lost, and we're like, somehow, looking back, you're like, how do you get lost? But it's just because you were never there before, right?
Correct.
And so we had some Steelers fans look at us like, "Are you guys lost?" And like, because you could tell we were lost. And they're like, you need to go here, here, here. This is how you get to the game."
Right.
And I promise you, I've never gotten that anywhere else. I've gone
Right.
baseball games, football games, hockey games. You just have people that are just kind of like, let's get there, let's have a good time, let's go home. We're all in this together, whether you like the Steelers or you like the Browns or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's my kind of quote unquote tailgate experience. Is that like never felt, one, I was in danger, but two, I always felt like if I was lost or I needed something, somebody would get me in the right direction.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So the tailgate experience is probably another thing you probably need to experience there because also to the visiting fans, we're very welcoming, right? So, Browns fan walks past, we've got a cooler of beers. You just came in off the ferry. Here's a beer. Do you want any food? We've got some, great, pizza rolls. We've got some pierogies. Let the fans, the other fan base, experience what we experience all season long,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I think that's another goal of the fans in Pittsburgh. We'll rib you occasionally, about football things, but it's really all about being a fan, and we appreciate fandom itself at its core.
Right.
And I think that expresses itself to visiting fans. Now, that said, we do have those kind of negative fan bases that visit Pittsburgh every once in a while, right? When we get Philly in, right? That's a Pennsylvania rivalry there,
Mm-hmm.
and they're usually super negative.
Yeah, they're known for that.
Yeah, they're super negative. They're just always saying stuff, and doing it in front of our kids and stuff like that. And you're like, really,
Right.
So you kind of have to hold your kids' ears and stuff, when they're talking.
I mean, they booed Santa Claus, so I mean, I'm not sure what you can say. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying they booed Santa Claus. Draw your own conclusion. I want to just piggyback for a second, because I haven't talked about Browns culture at all. I mean, as Browns fans, we're very welcoming of anybody. Like the Steelers. This is why the Browns and the Steelers are, I think, rivals, is because they're like the same group of people, and the cities are very similar, and they're very close to each other. And I think Browns fans have a camaraderie around the fact that we're just a terrible football team. Although we would like to have a camaraderie around being a good football team. But I think you could probably tell, talking to me for a long time, we have no problem making fun of ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, what else do we have? It's not like we have anything else. And you're just like fans, and you want to win so bad, and you want to have a good football team, but you don't. So you just kind of express your fandom in other ways. Like, let's vote Shedeur Sanders in. Let's get Peyton Hillis. Let's vote this ridiculous situation. I mean, let's have a parade celebrating the fact that we went 0-16 after going 1-15 the year before. And by the way, every January 31st is Hugh Jackson Day, 1-31. That was his record as a head coach, 1-31. So 1-31 is Hugh Jackson Day, and you got to celebrate Hugh Jackson. I mean, you got to go watch the tape, and you got to you're the one driving the bus. You got to say all the stuff that Hugh Jackson said on 1-31. So we do have our own kind of culture, but it's around all the things you don't want to culture around, which is like being incompetent.
Right. I love that.
It's actually a lot of fun being a Browns fan. The only thing you got to deal with is like what we started with, right? You got to deal with the stupidities that come on national news, and you got Hugh Jackson doing the tour of "I was paid to lose" when clearly you weren't paid to lose. You were just incompetent. But when the culture is the Browns are terrible, and you can feel better about your team by looking at how bad the Browns are, Hugh Jackson gets the media tour, right?
It does.
So I would just say, to wrap up here, Mike, the square is real important when it comes to sports news, because a lot of it is designed to evoke an emotional response. And in an off season of change, which is a lot in Cleveland and now in Pittsburgh this year, there's a lot of stuff coming out, and it's going to come out. This people did this, these people did that. This goes on, that goes on, and you're just going to have to rationally, does this make any sense? Like, why is Katie Blackburn looking at her star defensive end and saying, you should just be happy with what you have? What sense does that make? And the only rational conclusion I can come with is it's Mike Brown. He's just cheap and doesn't want to win.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's my shot.
That's a good one.
Gotta have at least somebody.
Gotta have at lead one.
That's right. I'd take a shot at the Ravens, but why? I mean, did you notice? Here's my shot on the Ravens. Did you notice their head? I mean, I probably mentioned this last week. They basically hired John Harbaugh as their coach after they fired him, because the guy they hired, Jesse Minter, worked for Harbaugh in Baltimore, and then Jim Harbaugh hired him, made him defensive coordinator, and now they just brought him back to Baltimore. Why are you firing the guy just to hire the same guy? And then the reason you fired him is because you didn't want to, you didn't want Todd Monken around, and then he left on his own. So if you wanted to really critique an organization for being dumb, I think the Ravens are one that you could really say, what is your off season? This is an off season of stupidity. It's just a turnstile.
Right.
There you go.
Exactly.
There's my shot on the Ravens for the day.
All right. I love it. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for the Hash Marks and Working Tools podcast. And you can catch us here next week. Go out to all of the different podcast places and listen to us. Check us out on YouTube. And
hey, Mike, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Who's our sponsor?
Our sponsor, it's
Yes.
Bash Foo. Bash Foo. So Bash Foo is a digital marketing company here in Tip City, and we build small business websites, and we do search engine optimization, and we do digital ads.
And thank you for Bash Foo for sponsoring our podcast.
All right. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Joel. It's been another exciting episode. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Hash Marks and Working Tools podcast, where the gridiron meets the lodge room and everyday life in between. Together, we use football, lodge life, and the small daily habits we build to look at how character gets tested, measured, and refined in real time. This podcast is sponsored by Bash Foo, a digital marketing agency.